The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
I like that. I like that.
They think I'm hiding in the shadows. But I am the shadows.
Hello and welcome everyone to the first and hopefully semi-regular podcast discussing all things geekdom. I like that too. You may recognize our voices from such podcasts as Positively Star Wars Senate. So welcome to our spin-off special. Teaming up for this inaugural discussion will be Ricky.
Hello.
And myself, Ryan. So you may be asking yourself, what topic can be so powerful, so popular, and so profound to not only bring together the powerhouses of Ricky and Ryan, but to also create this entire podcast? That would be none other than the Batman. Isn't that right, Ricky?
Batman 1989. No.
You discussed the original Batman.
The original Adam West 1960s movie.
Batman
No, yeah,
60s.
Yeah, I know we're usually talking Star Wars on the podcast channel, but this kind of came organically. We were having a discussion, which was kind of prompted by me because I started kind of bagging on the new movie, and Ryan's a super huge fan. So for those guys that maybe might be tuning in for the first time or are regulars listening to Positively Star Wars Senate, we're active participants in that, and besides Star Wars, we do have other things that we do watch. So we thought it'd be kind of nice just to go over some other things. We might do some additional topics throughout the time, but this kind of derives from me not really enjoying the Batman very much, and Ryan being a super huge fan of it. So that's kind of how this goes. So we're gonna try to basically I've got a table set up with my drink, and I got a sign saying change my mind, and Ryan's gonna try to change my mind about the
And
movie.
I have a list of notes that says change Ricky's mind.
Yes.
So ready to go.
I'm not gonna try to dump on it like at all, because I don't like to do that for I don't want to damper anyone's enjoyment of anything. I do try to keep it positive, but that's pretty much my one rule when it comes to all this stuff. But I might break that one rule.
And me being a Star Wars fan, I'm used to having things dumped on, and I will fight back aggressively.
Yeah, and I'm usually the defender of all the Star Wars stuff too. So.
Yeah, I am ready for anything. So, but yeah, it's as far as this show, it's like, I mean, what's your idea for it, Ricky? We just kind of plan on just really discussing anything from video games to movies to comics, or just kind of whatever we.
Yeah, because we were both into different things. Like I play a lot of video games. I collect Pokemon cards, and I have a lot of different action figures and stuff, and board games and stuff like that. And you were into Funko Pops and a lot of there's stuff we do. There's video games we both do like and stuff like that. So, and you're really into comics, so we should have some pretty good topics on this thing. So it should be fun. Yeah, hopefully we can do this pretty regularly. I don't know how often we'll be able to meet up, but we might get some of the other members of the Senate to join us sometimes if they're able to. But this was just convenient enough for just us two to have time just to hash out what we thought about this movie, and plus we're the only two from the Senate that have watched it so far. So yeah,
boggles my mind.
Not me.
Multi-million-dollar. Like, we'll get around to it. I mean, it's Batman. This is a required theater viewing in my eyes.
Yeah, and everything is. I mean, I don't proclaim to be an expert on anything DC or any. I casually read Batman comics over the years. I've bought a couple of issues. I gotta preface it with saying I'm not a huge DC fan of the movies. I mean, I did like Shazam a lot, and I'm not really a big fan of any of the current stuff. Probably just Shazam and the first two Nolan movies are the recent ones that I've liked. So, I mean, I don't go into it thinking like, I'm gonna hate everything that comes out with DC, but I'm usually cautiously optimistic, which for this movie, I didn't even watch a trailer for it. So I just kind of caught glimpses online. Yeah, so I wasn't really hyped up about it. I didn't want to get overhyped with this. I mean, I have watched everything that's come out from DC, and it's, some of it's fine, and some of it I'm like, yeah, it wasn't my favorite. I'm probably not going to watch it again. Most of them have just been, I watched it once just to see what the buzz was about, and had no desire to go back. So I am a huge Marvel fan though. So, I mean, I'm not And I'm just because I did collect more of those comics than I did of DC. I think the only DC run I really got into was my wife was reading Fastest Man Alive when they had kind of the crossover with the other Flashes throughout the eras. That one was pretty cool. I think it's the one where he dies.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much the only DC thing I've read. I mean, I have read, the Frank Miller stuff with Batman and Hush and some of that other stuff, so the older stuff. But yeah. Mostly
Yeah,
Marvel.
where pretty much any superhero movie I relatively like. I even chose begrudgingly to see Morbius in
Oh, you did
theaters.
watch that.
So yeah, I did see that. But as far as DC, I've enjoyed, not as much as Marvel. They're much, much better, but I've enjoyed, and actually Batman vs Superman is one of my most enjoyable of the DC movies. So Aquaman was good, and all it was good, and Marvel's on a different level. It's unfair to compare them, but I'm not only positive towards Star Wars. I'm positive towards a lot of things, and usually if there's something that I like, when there's things that people don't like about it, I crank it up to 11, so just to find points, and it's in that discovery where I realize I like things so much more. So
Yeah, and like my one thing with being a Star Wars fan and having people saying, "Oh, I didn't like The Last Jedi, I didn't like the prequels." I like everything pretty much, and I never really understand why people would spend time creating a show or creating a channel just to harp on it. I'm gonna try not to do that with this because like I said, it's called I Like That Too. So I mean, we both watched it, we both like different things. So I'm kind of trying to be semi not negative on it, but
well,
yeah.
I am fully prepared for any negativity you may have, and comparisons and talking about it, and too calmly. And if I have to yell, I will mute my mic for a second and come back. And everything will be fine.
You're gonna scream like you're in the booth with the Riddler in Arkham.
No.
No.
Yeah, that was a little. All right, so how do we want to kick this off? Do we want to break it down into discussion points? Obviously story is the biggest one,
Yeah.
and then there's smaller things like actors and cinematography,
Yeah.
music.
Well,
So
I mean, like
I
the cast. I love the cast. Everybody in there was. I mean, there are a lot of Commissioner Gordon. What is his name?
Jeffrey Wright, I believe.
Jeffrey Wright. Yeah. I
With
like
a
him.
W.
He's good in everything he does, and I'm a big Zoe Kravitz fan, and I also like Robert Pattinson. I like them in the. I watched all the Twilight movies in the theater, so I don't have a problem with him.
My wife showed me a bunch of other Pattinson movies as I prepared for this. He always plays like a British guy. I guess he's British. I don't know. Surprised to me.
British
They
in
have
Harry
such great-
Potter? I can't remember if he was or not.
Oh man, it's been forever. I don't think so. They got such great American accents, man. It always throws me off.
Yeah, he didn't.
So,
This
but
one,
yeah,
you could, yeah, he had a great Gotham.
yeah. I liked. Yeah, well, I think it was nice. We finally got to see eye makeup because people always mocked BVS. Where Superman rips off his mask in the he rips his mask off so hard his eye makeup comes off too.
Well, didn't
So
Keaton
it's like
have it on?
recognizing.
Keaton had it in the first two movies, but then when he took the cowl off, it was gone, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. They all have eye makeup. It's just the movies prefer not to say that it's real.
Yeah.
It's like we see it, acknowledge it, and this movie does acknowledge it, and they acknowledge that he gets sweaty, and yeah, it looks like Black Parade type of stuff, but it's
He looks like
realistic.
Robert Smith from The Cure, but
Yeah, exactly.
and that
when you're
was
talking,
like, yeah, I mean, I know you told like I've been nitpicking the movie. That was like one of my nitpicks was when the first scene you see with him out the cowl and he's got the eye makeup running down his face. You would have totally saw that when he had the cowl on because his half of his face is uncovered. So I'm like, it's kind of like maybe he just wiped it over his face after he took the cowl off. I don't know.
yeah, and when he wipes the sweat away, he's got to think his head gets really wet. But
And then it's raining. Why is it always raining in Gotham?
It's again cinematography. Everybody loves a good fight in the rain. Maybe this will be a future one. The Matrix. I'm a huge fan of every movie of the Matrix.
Well, see, that was a simulation, so they could make it rain.
Yeah, which he did. He controlled the weather. That was the point of the little girl. But yeah, everybody loves a big fight in the rain. Actually, the Matrix ringtone during that fight is my alarm in the morning. I have that song as my alarm, where it's like, like that's my alarm to wake up.
Super Burly
And I
Brawl.
just, I just sit. Oh yeah, that's the thing. You have a good memory. I have a terrible one. So, but Jeffrey Wright, when you mentioned him, I love that he was just pretty much the narrator. Anytime there was a clue, Batman's like, "You read this to me because you're so good at it." And it's like, man, this guy could just read me the whole movie, and I thought that was brilliant.
I found it like after a while, I found it odd that he never calls him Batman. He just says, "Hey, man." Like the whole movie, he says, "Man."
I don't think anybody calls him Batman except the Riddler, and it's just the Batman.
Yeah, Penguin calls him Mr. Vengeance. He calls him Vengeance.
Or just Vengeance. So
because he told people, "I'm Vengeance." Which I missed. He should have said, "I'm Batman," but I guess they're trying to go for something more. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's. I don't want to say, well, it's only 2 years. He doesn't have a name yet. You wear a cowl with bat ears on it. I know you call yourself the Batman. So,
his symbol on his chest is a bat. So.
I guess, yeah. You ought to know. He's like, oh, I never thought of that. I was going by Vengeance, and I have
all these
ears.
Vengeances hanging upside down in my cave.
Yeah, that's not a bat symbol. It's a upside down. It's a V, and his ears are a V. And everyone's just like, you look like a bat, right? And he's like, yeah, I totally do.
Possum. No.
So
yeah, I mean I lost my train of thought. Yeah, no, I the beginning part, I tried rewatching it again. I got like halfway through, but yeah, the beginning, his intro when he walks in the shadows, I liked all that stuff. That was kind of cool introduction when like I'm everywhere, they don't know where I'm at type of thing.
Yeah. The very beginning was the murder of the mayor, which I'm on my 4th viewing right now, and honestly, I fast forwarded through that whole part because I was like, it's a kind of a slow opening to the movie. But like you said, that Batman one, that's why I just love Reeves. It's so amazing when they're just looking in the dark, and it makes it, and that's what Batman is. He's fear, and that's a great thing to the movie. He thinks his job is to scare everybody, and we can touch on that towards the end. So, but yeah, the beginning I loved. But I know one of the things that we brought up that pretty much started this whole discussion was that you don't think the Batman solved anything. So I got to know.
But I mean, he solves things after they happened, which, hindsight, like, oh yeah, I could have did that. But yeah, no, I mean, this was supposed to be like, and I did, when rewatching it, I did notice that his notebook that he was writing in said October, year 2 October. And then when he meets Gordon, he's like, oh, we've been at this for 2 years now. I still don't even know who you are. So this is the beginning of the 3rd year of him as Batman from what it tells you in the movie. So I would think by that time he'd kind of have a little bit more going on. But then his whole thing with the movie that he was with the story, he felt like he wasn't doing enough to the city, like he wasn't helping, and he reiterates that to Alfred.
That's always been a big thing in the Batman comics and even a lot of superhero movies. I forgot which movie mentions it. One of the Marvel movies, Vision says it. Ever since the rise of heroes, crime has increased. The size of the crime, and that's Batman too. Is Batman the right character, or is he inviting bigger and bigger insane people? I mean,
and that was
Superman.
That was the end of Batman Begins when he's on the roof with Commissioner Gordon. He's like, "What happens now?" He's like, "What do you say? Everything's gonna escalation. You're gonna have you wear a mask, they're gonna wear a mask. Like where's it end? Type of thing."
Yeah. So I think that's a good point.
There were a lot of good themes in the movie. I feel like the way they were kind of like carried out, I didn't really particularly care for. But yeah, going back to like me saying he wasn't really solving anything with the whole thing with the Riddler's ciphers. The initial one, he did figure out like you pointed out, he figured out that it said drive, and he did figure out that it was a thumb drive, but he didn't tell Commissioner Gordon he was looking for a thumb drive. He figured that out initially, right? But then the rat maze, he figured out.
He did the drive, the thumbs.
The El Rata, Altada was the Alfred figured that out. Which
I don't know if that he figured it out as much as he just gave to Alfred and went to bed, because he just kind of wakes up and he's like, "What you been doing all day?" Yeah,
Alfred did in his own. He was bored.
I'm sure it's because he's still using the Riddler cipher. So I just feel like he probably just went to bed. They already have the keys. Relatively the keys. He figured out El Rata Alada, which it almost took me to the second viewing before I even really. When I watched it at home and I rewound it, so I really understood what he was talking about. Like, because at first I did, when you originally pointed out that how could they mess up the Spanish for it, and then I was like,
and then they know that the Spanish was wrong. Like, Alfred tells him like, oh, his Spanish must be not very good, but it translates to this, And he's like, oh, and then later on when Penguin's pointing out like, no, dummy, it's La, not L. He's like, and then Commissioner Gordon tells Batman like, oh, you think he made a mistake? He's like, he never makes mistakes. Like, you knew that he did this already. Like, why didn't you
Yeah, it's
figure
almost
this
like
out before?
those reminders, though. Like you in your head, he made a mistake, but you don't ever make the connection. It's like until someone tells you, does he make mistakes? And you're like, no, of course he doesn't make mistakes. He purposely did URL, and he's like, oh wait, and then he does this whole Batman thing.
The URL thing, that was like a private chat URL that he had set up.
I guess. I mean, yes, it seemed just like a chat room, just like any other web, internet site where you can just have chat. Pretty much almost like
he
Reddit.
said goodbye and it turned off. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, he could if he's the main user of the website, who knows if he can turn it on and off. But yeah, and then that
was my thing.
Website,
like, couldn't they track all that stuff? Like they kept saying that he like had followers on social media. You see the people outside of the the funeral dressed up like the Riddler already, like when they go to the mayor's funeral. Like, no one's ever trying to look for the Riddler, like the physical person, the Riddler. The whole time, Batman and Commissioner Gordon are trying to follow the clues that he's laying out for them, the breadcrumbs. So that was kind of like my issue with the whole thing. Like, had they tried to look into the Riddler more, they might have prevented, like, all the people from dying.
Yeah, just remember, though, they didn't know anything about him, and it wasn't till he turned himself in, and even then he had 2 name cards, and then they found his chat page, but his chat page was locked, and it wasn't till he ripped up the carpet, and then that's when the bombs went off. But it was like the sins of the father or whatever the password was, because the police couldn't
how did
get
his
into
followers know it though? That was my whole thing. Like, they knew that he had a following, they knew he had websites. They said, oh, he didn't know social media posts during the bomb segment, when the mayor or the DA blew up and Batman was staring at it going down to 0. But, yeah, they didn't. I mean, they might have on the back end of the movie. Maybe they had other detectives looking into that. So I wish they would have showed that. Or like I brought up earlier, the photos.
I think it just moved.
Well,
I think it just moved too quick. Well, I mean, they did have the photos, and remember, they were on the news and they were looking for the girl. The only difference was Batman, coincidentally, was in the nightclub, and he noticed the boots, and the boots is how he knew to talk to Selena.
Yeah,
I think he pronounced it Selena a couple times, but he knew he talked to Selena.
He called her Celine.
Okay. Yeah. I thought like the first time I was like, that sounds.
Or did he
weird,
say Selena? I think he did say Selena.
Yeah.
Yeah, Selena.
So, Childs. But I know. So he almost had like a jump on it, where he's like, "Oh, those boots look familiar. They were made for walking." So, and that's how he instantly knew who she was. So it's obviously a movie. You got to make weird connections. So he was talking to the Penguin. Selena walks in. The camera specifically pans on the boots.
Mm-hmm.
Then they find the thumb drive, and then it releases all those photos, and he sees the boots again. And then that's when he goes and talks to her and creates a relationship.
No. He's showing Penguin the photos, and then she walks in to serve him drinks, and then he notices, like, hey, like, her, because she made that face looking at the photos. Yeah.
Because the thumb drive was released. Yeah.
Yeah, so, it had already.
Yeah, you're right. The thumb drive was the one that released the photos.
Yeah, because her friend was calling her like in the car, saying like she was freaking out. Then he follows her, and she, some reason, changes into her Catwoman gear with the windows open, so everyone can see she's Catwoman. So.
And I did look back at that scene, and she does have curtains. Because originally I was like, maybe curtains are expensive.
Like, oh no, they're gonna come to kill me, and I'm saving you. But let's leave all these windows open to this entire flat.
Yeah, well, don't forget the mayor also left his windows open, so maybe it's just something you do in the city. I don't know. I've never lived in a place where you have 3-story high windows.
That was the other thing. Go back to the photos. Like there was a cool thing that I saw that happened when I watched it the second time. When you see Bruce and Selena exit the club, or I think when she leaves, because when she talks to the DA guy or something like that, they show the building across the street. You can see him standing in the window looking down. You can see the Riddler.
The Riddler.
Yeah. It's blurred, but you can see him standing there looking at. And that's where he took the photo from. That's why I was like, why didn't they check where the perspective of the photo was taken? They could have went up to that apartment or hotel place, because that's where his house was. He shot Falcone from up there. So had they just questioned people in that building, he's Batman. He doesn't need a warrant. He can just go into apartments,
Oh, you're saying if the police just took the photo, stood where the photo was, and looked at the angle of the photo, they would have seen up at the window?
Yeah, and then they knew
maybe
that...
you should be a detective.
Well, I could be Batman. But yeah, I mean, it's just little quirky stuff like that that I was like, well, why didn't they do that? And like, I just felt like he was a pawn
We
playing the
needed him.
game the whole time. I just needed like Batman to get a win in the movie, and I didn't feel like he did ever. You know?
Yeah, I do agree that he was definitely chasing the Riddler, but it did make him. Yeah, I liked that it made the Riddler so powerful. Pretty much, he outsmarted Batman in every sense of the way, and he thought
yeah,
Batman
yeah.
was on his level. And then obviously when he's talking to him in prison,
He's
but
like, I thought you were smarter.
I took you for, I thought more of you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought more of you that you haven't figured this out yet. So, and that's what I do like. I don't like our heroes being gods among all, being the best. I like them to be knocked down. I like them to pick themselves back up. And that's exactly like Batman. He really did. Yeah, he solved a lot of riddles, but he was one step behind the whole time. And it shows just how smart he was. Where I know I rewatched Batman Forever before going to see this with Jim Carrey,
Oh,
as the
yeah.
Riddler.
I don't think I've ever sat
He
through that
solved
whole
all
movie.
this. Oh yeah, if you watch it for what it is, a kid's movie, I
Yeah.
sat through it, and honestly, I always use that as an example above all why never to believe fan casting, because I'm sure once they announced Jim Carrey is the Riddler and whoever's Two-Face, Tommy Lee Jones is
yeah.
Two-Face, I'm sure what would have been the internet or people in general were like, perfect casting, Jim Carrey's
Yeah.
perfect.
And that's
It's,
basically how it was at
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
And then watched it, and it's just at the time people hate, and the people still say they dislike it. But I realized the WB wanted to get away from the adult orientated Batman 1 and 2, and 3 and 4. They're like, let's make it more kid friendly.
Yeah,
let's
the Schumacher stuff. That was like going
appease
back
to a wider audience.
they
That's
to the point where like on Batman and Robin they used the camera angles from the TV show, when they're fighting. The only thing they didn't do was put the pow and bam and all that stuff in there. But yeah.
Oh, I think they definitely did that in Batman and Robin, because we fought Mr. Freeze's goons. I'm 100% at one point. It said Biff and Podge, and I was like, dude, like, oh man, I gotta remember, I'm a 30-something-year-old watching this movie. It's meant for everybody. And I'm just like, it's so ridiculous.
What was that, like 94 that movie came out? I think I was like maybe 12, 13, so I was like really not into it at the time.
I think it had to be that.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they take 3 years between every movie, it's the 4th movie down the line. So it had to be late 90s, I would say.
Yeah, 'cause I
89,
saw
and then probably 9.
the 89 movie. I didn't see in theaters. I was like 8. So like I did get the VHS when I think somebody my mom must have bought it for me when it came out. So I watched that thing over and over and over again. Watching it now as an adult, I'm like, how was I watching this when I was 8 years old? It's pretty dark, Yeah.
And like I mentioned, I rewatched Batman Returns. Before this, I did like a full Batman rewatch, including Begins, which there's a lot of. I'll bring up that in a little bit, but there's a lot of tie-ins with that too, which I thought was interesting.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's Batman Returns. I was shocked because it's Danny DeVito's Penguin was just totally
grotesque.
Holding a fish, like, oh, eat that fish. Like, I'm like, oh god, no, dude. Like, that's a terrible way to talk to women.
Tim Burton having free reign in that movie.
Yeah.
And I did watch that one in theater when I was a kid, but no, I haven't rewatched it in years, that one, because I'm just like, I start to put it on, I'm like, nah. I'm like, no.
Sometimes you just got to remember a 10-year-old is not going to get this reference.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I'm sure there's
like adult things.
I'm sure there's like 8
won't
10-year-olds that have seen the Batman. So I hope not, but yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it basically was a serial killer horror movie with the Batman in it. I appreciate that's what they were going for, but I don't know. Maybe I've seen too many of those movies, because I've seen all the Saw movies. I've seen the 7 and the Zodiac and all that. It seemed a bit cliche at times, the movie. But like I said, it might just be because of my experience watching, and I like those movies. I mean, I have the new Saw movie, Spiral, sitting on my shelf on 4K. I do enjoy watching those. But yeah, I don't know. I
went to theater to watch it too, and I have to tell my wife, don't tell me what you guess, because you usually get it right.
Yeah.
So she has to like bite her tongue through all these movies, and then at Spiral, have you seen Spiral?
Yeah, no, that's the one that I
it?
was just saying that. I with Chris Rock.
Well, I didn't know if it's sitting on your shelf.
No,
but
yeah.
unwatched. So, but yeah, we watched it, and right away, as soon as it was revealed the killer, she leaned over. She's like, "Yeah, I knew it was him in like the first 5 minutes," and I
Yeah.
was like, "Thank you for not saying anything," because I'll watch a movie totally blank. That's why it's hard for me to, I'll watch a movie fully experience. I'll watch one trailer, I'll experience the movie, and then people bring up all these talking points, and I was like, I never noticed that. Like, I'm just enjoying the story, and trying to experience a movie. That's why I like going to the movies. Just experience it. One of the things that I did thought was weird when I originally saw the movie is it's like, man, Bruce was really a jerk to Alfred when he's like, "You're not a Wayne,
Yeah.
you're not my
You're
father,"
not my
stuff
dad.
like that. And I was like,
Like,
man,
like,
why do you
damn, like really already? Like we just
why do
met
you
you.
think he's such a jerk? But then I went
Yeah.
back, and when I watched Batman Begins, there's a line that he says directly to Alfred, where he says, "You're not my father, Alfred.
Yeah.
Why do you care?" When he's getting back from his around the world missions, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my god!" It was like such a callback to Batman Begins, and I don't know if it's followed much in the comics because Alfred and Bruce have always got along, but
Yeah.
apparently the movies like that dynamic in there that they don't get along, but then later in the movie you realize, what's the point of all them push-ups if you can't push one bloody log off your chest?
Yeah.
And then it's a fair dynamic. That's just part of movie telling, I feel now, is make them dislike each other
Which I
and then make
think
them realize they're all
I have a theory about that. I think it has to do with the whole Peter Parker Uncle Ben dynamic, where it puts a little bit of. I mean, look, he argued with Alfred and said that stuff, and then Alfred blew up. You know, like and like
yeah.
that. It kind of makes it like, oh, like what if he dies? Like, oh, they didn't really like patch it up very much because they were too busy with all this other stuff. But and that was the other thing too that bothered me. Like that okay, the point where they're in Arkham and he's talking to the Batman, he's like, oh, like all my powers up here, like you have all the brawn, I can't do that. Like he murdered two people with his hands. Like like he obviously has the
But
physicality to do
but
it.
D,
Huh?
that's I seen that theory online, is that especially after the review of the followers, did he really kill anybody?
He had
Or
to
is he
because
like the Manson
no, because on the
who say that
when
was
he does his
him they
final
killed
chat
me?
thing, he
I guess
does say now it's your turn. I've done everything, now it's your turn. He says
yeah,
that.
he does say that. I
Yeah.
remember seeing that my third viewing. I was like, okay. And that's the thing. I don't make a lot of these little connections. I don't purposely look for connections from beginning to end. And the wife's like, "How do you not see that connection?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just watch the movie.
No, that
I
my
don't
first
look
viewing,
for. I don't."
I know, in which that was the part of the movie that I kind of did enjoy in the first showing, in the first scene when I watched it. He's like, oh, now it's your turn. So like, oh, now he's gonna have all those wacko people like do his bidding now. That how's Batman gonna stop all these people? So yeah, I mean, I like there was good story beats, there was good. I just felt like a lot of it left to be desired. But yeah, he tells Batman that he's not, all his might is with his mental and stuff like that. Which I guess being a forensic accountant, preps you for doing all that stuff somehow. So he's explaining all the stuff, and he says Bruce Wayne like for 2 minutes. Bruce Wayne. I'm like, oh, he knows who he is, and then he's like, oh, we didn't catch him. Too bad. like, like, why did he?
Yeah.
That seemed to be like the one person that was kind of out of place on his target list for me, because everybody had a grudge against the mayor, the DA, the people running, and the what was it, the police commissioner or the police chief. I don't know who the other guy that he killed, but they were all corrupt and they were
It was
all working.
the
Yeah,
commissioner, DA, and mayor.
yeah. So they were all corrupted, and they were taking bribes and this and that. But Bruce Wayne didn't do any of that, you know. And like he seemed more angry about Bruce Wayne when he's doing that whole little speech about an orphan and I had to do this, but no, let's worry about Bruce Wayne, And then he's like, but we didn't get him. Too bad. Like,
yeah, I think there's a couple points to that where and again, his whole persona, which I loved, and if we, if you want to touch on it again a little bit, that he was just an internet fanatic, and
he was a troll.
He thinks that Thomas Wayne created Renewal to purposely take money, but in reality, Thomas Wayne really did want to do good, but it was used for bad. So you have this fanatic who hates the government, who hates all these officials, who he himself feels like, the wealthy get away with everything. Even Selena says these wealthy rich people, so there's definitely
that guy tells Bruce
type
in the
of
funeral
persona
too.
for everybody. Yeah, and And so I feel like, well, Thomas started this to take money, and he's wrong about it, but a fanatic doesn't see it that way. So, and when they found it written on the wall, the sins of the father are to be passed on to the child. So he just wanted to punish a member of the Wayne family. Be like, listen, you started all this, so you deserve to die too. You don't deserve to get your face eaten off by rats, I guess. So I guess you just get a bomb,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna call it, get that.
And then that was it,
you
like,
pointed that out.
the bomb
So
blew
I guess
up.
he just gave him a little bit of attention.
Maybe, but
like,
then like Bruce, no,
it almost
the Commissioner Gordon had no
Jim-
idea about that, right?
about the
Like,
bomb. I mean,
yeah,
until
about
it
the
went
bomb.
off,
No,
and then
I
the
mean,
whole police
in the Wayne Manor, like he didn't tell anybody, right? But they
Well, I mean,
never
they were-
showed the police going to Wayne Manor and investigating or anything like that. They just showed Alfred in the hospital.
It did show them there, yeah, because
Did it show them at Wayne
remember
Manor?
because he's speeding back and he's making the phone call, and the other maid picks up, and she's like, "It happened an hour ago," and then the camera pans back, and she's surrounded by police, and then it's a police officer that gives the note to a cleaned up Bruce Wayne that looks like he just took a bath. So he's
But
like,
why
"Oh
would
God, he's dying." I got
Yeah.
stuff off my
But then
face.
Commissioner Gordon wasn't there, which was odd. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you gotta remember he was still back at the old Arkham. I guess it was the old orphanage. Yeah, it was the Wayne orphanage is where they were at. Remember they were seeing the video on the wall?
Yeah.
It's him and Commissioner Gordon, and then he just disappears, and Gordon looks over and he's like, "Well, where'd he go?" Well, he's already speeding back. And I love that moment because, having kids and stuff like that, you can just feel like his realization that Alfred's all I have. And I love the emotions
answering,
that Pattinson played, where he's, doing everything he can to stop something that can't be stopped. So I thought it was brilliant too.
So the whole
there's
rap
definitely
with
issues that
Wings thing led them to that whole conversation about the orphan, and then they went to the orphanage. I wonder if they even asked if they saw anybody setting up, the camera and the video and all that stuff there. I'm hoping they did. I don't know.
Well,
I think I need a little bit more investigating to be shown on screen, and it would have made it a little bit more.
It's one of those things like, do you really want to see Commissioner Gordon talking to a bunch of drug addicts who
You
would be like,
kind of need
"Man,
to, though, if they're trying to find the killer. I don't know. I don't know. They could have.
it's one of the
They spent so many minutes of them just staring at things. Like they could have spent a couple seconds each time something happened. Them like questioning. Like even the scene with the Riddler's apartment. There's like a million cops in that little tiny room, and they're all just kind of standing there. Like,
Yeah, they have to log all that stuff. So,
but they're
yeah,
kind
all
of
this
standing there
is in
talking
kind
to each other. Like, do something.
well, they have to collect. They're collecting evidence, so they have to collect evidence. It's not like most movies where you'll have the CSI guy kick down the door and do all this, but that's why when Batman picks up this evidence, they're like, we can't just flip through all this. We have to log it all and then go back and read years of notebooks type of stuff. So it's like Gordon following the chain of command. I mean, until Batman comes in.
They're just standing there looking at each other.
Oh, I thought that was also kind of weird. Is Batman seems to hate the police in this movie. He straight up says, "Well, they are police." When they get crooked, when they crooked cop, he's like, "They are police." I was like, "Dang!" Like he's shots fired towards the policeman.
Well, I mean, the whole part where he punches Commissioner, not. I keep calling him Commissioner Gordon, but he's not yet. Was he still Sergeant, or what is he? Was he Commissioner?
Whatever's under Commissioner. I don't know. But remember, the Commissioner's dead now, so there might be a time jump, and then we might see him like the next movie, which was announced today. Breaking news.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, they announced part 2. Yay for me! We're gonna have to do a part.
Huzzah!
2. No, but yeah. So he tells Gordon's like, "Oh, if I punch you, you can get away. Get out of here." Which he does, and then the entire police force puts the APB out, and they're trying to catch him. And then, like, I don't know if it's the same day or the next day, they kind of just forgot, and he's like walking around the crime scene with them. I'm like, what happened? Like they were all so hell bent on catching him, and then they just forgot. And
I just think everyone respects. I think everyone respects Gordon. So as much as the now dead Commissioner doesn't like Batman, and you also see that in the movie, the mustache police officer with the hat at the very beginning who stops him. At the very end, he's one of the guys that help arrest Falcone when Gordon walks out, and he's like, "Not all of us are under your payroll," and he hands him directly over to the mustache cop. And I was like, that's nice, because he went from kind of showing that he doesn't like
Bruce
Batman.
Wayne, that guy, right?
Yeah. He waves it. Hey, how you doing? So, and then at the end, he proves that he's a good cop. But on the back to the escape scene, like you're talking about, I thought it was really funny how everybody immediately burst out of all these halls and just start firing their guns into the sky. I was like, boy, these guys are reckless discharging without any care in the world. So I just thought that was comical.
I would like to see them lean more into like, going with the corruption thing, like the certain officers that were on the take, like purposely trying to stop Gordon from teaming with Batman because they knew Batman would expose them. But
Well, yeah,
hey,
it's
that would have been a whole other
Mackenzie
movie.
They
Yeah.
did focus on that cop. Which it took me literally 4 viewings before I realized who it was because I don't know, maybe I was just terrible at faces. But Mackenzie's the bad cop, the one that Catwoman tries to kick off the building,
Yeah, the guy who broke his
him.
nose, right?
Yeah. Do you
The
remember
mustache
how he
guy?
broke his nose?
In the
Do
nightclub,
you
right?
remember how he broke his nose? Yeah. Do you remember who
Yeah.
he was in the nightclub though? Like how he broke it? Do you remember
Mm,
where he was there?
wasn't that in the beginning,
Because
like
that's
after he fought the twins and then he went on that platform and he was shooting, he was gonna
yeah,
shoot
I
him with,
think
yeah, he got the
yeah,
grappling
I
hook and
think he was the guy who had the pipe thrown at him.
yeah, the pipe break,
Like
that's right.
took
Which
me
is weird. I had to rewatch it
forever.
again because he hits the pipe and then it kind of flips around and he grabs it and then I was like, I don't know if he hesitated to hit him with it, but then he ultimately tries to swing at him with it. Like, yeah, that was
Yeah,
pretty
well,
crazy.
yeah. So it's again, that's how terrible I am at making connections because I see it. When he's talking to Gordon, he's like, "That's the cop whose nose I broke." I'm
Yeah,
like, "When did he break his nose?" And then I watched it the second time. It's almost like I have to watch a movie with a specific idea, like watch this movie and look for the guy with the broken nose, and then I forget because I'm enjoying it
Did
so
you
much, and then I
did
get
you
to the
notice
scene.
the
Like,
second time I watched it, I noticed that okay, the girl that worked for the DA's office when they're on the 44 Below Club, that's saying like, oh, don't
okay.
talk about this right now. You're giving me, you're freaking me out. That's the same girl that goes with Falcone to the funeral that he thought was Celine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the same girl.
Again, if I don't specifically look for a character, I don't really care about the character, and I just don't look for him. So yeah, I didn't realize it was this because for one, she's in a nightclub, and then she's all dressed up in the next one. So
Yeah,
no, I don't think I realized it was the same person.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of little things like that connections in the movie that I like finding things in movies like that too. But yeah, I mean, there are some things I did kind of like not hate in this movie, but I mean, for the most part, it was. I probably wouldn't have watched it a second time if we were going to discuss it. But I didn't finish watching it though. I watched it up to the car chase a second time after that was done, and then it came on HBO Max last night, and I watched like it was to the point where he's a Riddler sitting in the coffee shop, and I watched a few minutes of that. But yeah, the other thing with the Riddler chase or the Penguin chase, Batman gets
Yeah.
shot and then they find the girl's body. I mean, they find the girl's body, and then Batman gets shot. Which I don't know why they're still carrying around her body like 2 days later.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, it has to be 2 days later.
I
He's just a terrible cop because it was Mackenzie again.
he just kind of just had her sitting there with the money. Like, were they gonna give her? I don't know what they were gonna do with her body. Why it was there with the duffel bags of cash, but and with the drop stuff. But okay, Batman gets shot, right, and he's laying on the floor. Is that what happened, right? He got shot.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
open
Penguin
fire,
was
and
winning.
apparently the
Yeah,
bullets had actually.
yeah, Penguin's winning the fight. They're shooting at him. He goes down, then he goes looking around the car like, I'm gonna get you, and then he's gone. Suddenly he's in the Batmobile revving the engine like Christine. So like and trying to scare everyone. And then Penguin's idea is, oh, he's in a car now. Let me jump in a car and leave. Like, why didn't he just shoot at the car? And how did
Well,
Batman
yeah,
like get to the car like without them knowing? And why was the Batmobile parked there in the first place? Because they didn't even know where the drop place was going to be at. But he was able
because
to
remember
like
they were
park the car
following.
there beforehand and have it quiet. And when it had that really loud engine, it just kind of took me out of it a little bit, that part.
Well, before the scene, remember they discussed let's go to one of the Penguins hideouts just to go quick. Remember, they wanted to just go question him, and that's when they discovered the drops, they discovered the body, and he flexed on him in the car. He was like, "You want to go? Huh?" He like juking him with the car, which again I thought was so cool. He just like revs up the car, and Penguin just takes off running. Like, oh crap! and just runs to his car. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to run away and apparently get into the biggest traffic jam in the world at 2
Yeah,
a.m.
I mean that whole sequence was cool, but I felt like it was cool for the sake of being a cool action sequence chase scene. And it kind of reminds me of like what movie was I was watching the making of Coming to America, and they were trying to get Eddie Murphy to put in, oh, we need to have a chase scene in this movie because they're popular. That's kind of what it felt like with this one. Like they were chasing everything. They blew up a gas tanker. I don't know how many people end up dying because of that. And then they catch the penguin and they just leave. And they go move on to something else. The penguin never gets arrested. They busted his drug operation. All these people died on the freeway, and okay, we're just gonna take off and leave them
Well,
in
you
handcuffs.
leave that to the other police. We don't want to see
But they never caught him.
questioning of other. I don't want.
He
Oh
never
yeah,
got
they
caught,
let him go.
which is weird. I mean, you would think that whole big operation they could blame him for the car chase. Like, why would he be walking for? I don't know. It was like that was weird. Like, why did they go through that whole thing? Which would probably back to like him not figuring anything out. Was they went through that whole sequence with the drops and they found the girl dead and they chased them and blew everything up and questioned him, found out the clue was wrong. He did the little chat with the Riddler, and then it's like all that was like for nothing. Like he could have just figured out. I mean, when they said rat with wings, I assumed Falcone from the beginning, which I think that's kind of what ruined it for me too. You know, like I
did
already
not.
kind of knew because it's a Falcone. And I thought it was weird that they had Maroni. I don't know if Maroni's actually a crime boss from the books. I feel like they have used it before, but I
Yeah,
think
it's definitely a name
Falcone's
I'm familiar with. I don't know their history, but yeah, it's Maroni and Falcone.
Yeah, they always use
I
Falcone for everything. But yeah, I just thought that was like it seemed like, oh, okay, they went through that whole chase just so they can get to that point for like basically no reason, because they didn't even capture the penguin and take him in. I mean, I would have liked to have seen Gordon be like, okay, I'm going to take this guy in. You go chase them or do whatever you need to do. You know?
Again, that's like little things in the background stuff. I know it helps connect to the thing altogether because you like to see, the connection.
Well, and then
from,
later you have like Penguin back
type
at the
thing.
club when he brings Falcone into the light, and they're arguing back and forth. Like, no, he's the rat. Like, well, if he was in prison, like, or in jail at the time, that you wouldn't have had that whole little scene. And they gave like Penguin the floor to talk. I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was odd.
Well, I mean, I definitely get your point where it's like it would have been nice to see if Gordon was at least called on the radio or at least said something where he's just like, I will send some police this way. But they had to put him and Gordon together, I guess. I guess they didn't need Gordon to go to the orphanage with Batman. It wasn't needed. I just like their dynamic, their buddy cop system. But yeah, so I could definitely agree with that. Where he definitely caused all that. And even if Gordon did call for somebody like, listen, I got this guy handcuffed over at the old, I don't know, steel mill, wherever they are.
Yeah.
I got him handcuffed there. I'll just send some cars that way. And then he's not there now because obviously he shows up later.
Yeah.
I'll agree with, if there's something I'm gonna agree on, I'll agree with you on that. Like,
Yeah, I would have liked,
probably,
even if they had like a little blurb when he meets up with Batman again, excuse me, saying like, oh yeah, we got the Riddler, but he's out now. And Batman's like, what? Like, why? Him being a little angry about that would have been cool, because I mean, at least he busted the guy, got some of the drops off the street. There was a pretty big drug bust there that they did, but him being like, what? And why is he out? That would have just showed more corruption with Gotham City PD.
Yeah, if they maybe received the call and then ignored the call, type of thing. So yeah, I could agree they could have added, a little something to kind of make it, I guess, to connect to the Penguin. I could agree with that.
Dark Knight did that so well. Every time something happened, Gordon called something in. They're like, oh, he's over here. It was really like cop drama and I think this movie needs a little bit more of that for me, instead of just like, oh, let's go run over here. Let's go run over here. Okay, there's no clue. Let's go here. Which is fine. That's fine, but I like the follow through, I guess. I don't know. But that might just be a me issue. I don't know.
I guess I was too enthralled with just seeing more Jeffrey Wright on the screen, and then I love his interaction because he's a good cop.
He was I think I remember first seeing him in Shaft. Did you ever watch the Shaft with Samuel Jackson?
No.
Christian Bale played the bad guy. Jeffrey Wright played the drug dealer that was in the movie, and he wanted to team him up with Christian Bale's character. And that's the guy that Samuel Jackson was trying to take down. But yeah, it's funny that he's in this movie and he was in the other movie with another Batman. Now that I think back. And then what else happened?
I remember. I think the first time I seen Jeffrey Wright was M. Night Shyamalan's Lady in the Water, which I was like enthralled with his character there.
Oh,
he was the crossword guy.
I have to rewatch that. I haven't seen that. I think I've only watched it maybe like once or twice. That one had
I love.
Rhino from Spider-Man. What's his name?
Yeah, I don't know. He's a super, powerful actor too. I
Yeah.
can't remember his name.
Paul Giamatti, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Lady in the Water. Anything almost M. Night Shyamalan. I even rewatched Avatar a couple days ago.
Yeah, that's the only one I think I don't like from him. But like I do like as much
rewatching it.
as much as the
Why
stuff.
would it was perfect setup for more sequels.
Did you watch the anime though, right?
No, that's one of them I have not
Oh.
watched.
That's why. That's why you liked it. The anime lets it breathe a lot more. Like they basically cram like a bajillion episodes into the one movie, and they skipped over kind of a lot of the most like charming parts of the story and the characters.
That's what you got to do. I mean,
Yeah.
it could have been so great because you're cramming 2 seasons or one whole
but
season.
they put stuff in from the last because it's split into book 1, book 2, book 3. They put stuff from the other books into this one for some reason. Maybe because they thought they weren't going to make another one, at the time when they did it. So they like added stuff that they didn't really need in there, and it kind of like took away from other time they could. I mean, you could have did a whole trilogy with the first book, like.
Yeah, it makes me so mad when movie theaters, and maybe this would be a whole when movie theaters, companies don't really commit to their shows. I feel like they let go of Power Rangers too soon. They let go of The Last Airbender too soon. And there's another one where I'm like, just learn from your mistakes. Like Power Rangers overall was good. It had great characters. Goldar was weird. Some of the Zords were weird.
You're talking about the new movie that came out?
Yeah, I mean, it's from a couple years ago now.
Yeah, the newest one, I guess.
And they just never made it. And it's like, no, you have the story. You could have moved to Tommy the Green Ranger and then moved to Zed. Like, just accept your faults and move forward. Same with Last Airbender. Accept that, okay, maybe we shouldn't have hired this white actor who actually did really good. He was doing a lot of his own stunts. Like, maybe we should have hired this generic actor to play this part. So we'll just recast the role to keep him younger. And just move the story forward. I mean, it's you introduce the character, now have him move into discovering his earth power, and move him discovering, because he already discovered air and water, move into discovering earth, and then do a huge final battle. Like, it makes me so mad.
If Avatar is on Paramount Plus now, or if it's still on Netflix, but if you can start watching from the beginning, it's like my favorite anime of all time. I mean, I admit to like not really watching very many, but that kind of got me into like animation. I would have never watched the Clone Wars if I didn't watch that, because I kind of I was one of those dismissive people with like cartoons, but it got me back into being a kid and watching cartoons again. And like I just fell in love with that whole show. Like I still rewatch episodes because it's just the story is just so good. It's funny. There's a lot of Star Wars elements in there. Like it's really good. I felt like that with that the studio should have did with Aragon. You ever watch that movie about the dragons? There were supposed to be a few of them, and they only made like the one movie, and they never continued it. And the movie was like so good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel like if they just accept some of their mistakes and move forward, and you have this huge story to build instead of redoing everything over and over. If you don't think you did good, it's like, oh,
that's why I'm excited for the Last Airbender TV show, for the Avatar TV show. Like they'll have more room to breathe, which I mean, I guess is kind of redundant because it's already a TV show. But I mean, it's live action, I guess. Like I said, there's people that don't want to spend time watching anime that will only watch real life people. But anybody that's not, they're missing out, because it's one of the best shows.
I have heard a lot of good about it. I've always wanted to watch it, and I've watched the final battle with the Fire Lord, and it's crazy. I even wanted to watch the new series because I thought it was really interesting how they started bending blood and stuff like that. Like,
they do that on the old series.
Oh, maybe I'm confusing with that one. But they learn, apparently.
Yeah, Legend of Korra was the newer one.
Set of powers. Yeah, there's a new set of powers where you can bend other stuff. Or that might have been the original too, where you don't just bend water, but you can almost like create ice.
Like if you're earth, you can do like metal because there's earth in it. There's a lot of cool stuff in there.
I've heard good stuff, but it just kind of came at that time where, I worked so much, I didn't have time to commit to a regular.
Well, I mean, in the time you watched the Batman 4 times, you could have watched like 2 seasons of the Avatar show.
I'll stick with Batman. So back to Batman, though. What do you think about how they did the Riddler as pretty much an internet fanatic?
as the Zodiac killer. Yeah, I wasn't too much of a fan. I mean, Riddler's one of my favorite characters and I guess my perspective's kind of skewed because I was such a big fan of the original TV show when I was a kid. I watched like every single I still watch the episodes. It's, Cesar Romero was my favorite Joker. The I forget the name of the guy who plays the Riddler for most of the time, but then the other guy is Gomez from Addams Family. He played the Riddler for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were like just the costume and the mask and all that. And he was, you rewatch the old show, like the Riddler was like, he was really comical, and he was kind of like, even reading like the what was it? I don't remember if it was Hush that was more Riddler-esque in the comic books, but like he was pretty much like the Joker, but more sinister, in my opinion. So I'm glad they went with a darker take. I just think they kind of went a little too much on the nose with the Zodiac serial killer stuff. I would have liked to see him more refined, maybe wearing a mask, but
I'm glad that they're, especially movies now, that they're trying to get away from the comic book look, where they have a weird mask and they're like, okay, let's make it more grounded, and they use like a military mask type of thing.
Now, see, and I'm a fan of I like the whole thing with DC, like when they had, the what do you call it? Was Smallville? They had the no flights, no tights rule, so they were trying to avoid all that stuff. I think that kind of hindered the show a lot, Like that's the reason why we were drawn. That's the reason we were drawn into the stuff because, I mean, Batman flies around in red underwear and blue tie, but it's gaudy and it's eye catching and it's fantastical. You're not going to see that I mean, I could watch a guy dressed like the Riddler anytime, down the street. I mean, it's scary, but I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. Even like with the Spider-Man movies, the way they're afraid to give Electro the actual mask, and they kind of change everyone's look for X-Men and stuff. I understand trying to make it like realism, but at the same time you have a guy dressed up like a bat, running around, and he's not wearing a T-shirt and a baseball cap, So I mean,
pants.
And that gives you the free reign to, like, you can have these characters, dress crazy and be the Joker, and that's why I kind of did like the Dark Knight, even though it was a departure from the Joker's look. He still was a guy in makeup wearing a crazy suit, But yeah,
and it's Batman 66. That is just the corniest junk I've ever seen in my life. And even sitting down to watch it, to be like, okay, I'm going to watch this just to be thankful I didn't grow up in this era. And I'm like, I can't even watch an episode. And again, it's if you were shown as a kid, there's nostalgia and there's funny to it. But I never even really attempted to watch it till I was I'll do grown in quotations, till I was an adult, because I'm still not grown. So as I'm looking at my case full of action figures right across from me.
I was watching. I think I started watching because it's on Crackle right now. If you go online, it's free to watch. But the first episode was like him like having a battle with the Riddler, and he kind of traps Batman and then sues him for defamation.
Like I won't even give it my time, because I was like, I'll have more important stuff to do, and then I'll just stare at my fans.
Hey, that's where they got the character from the Batman movie, the other woman that lived there in Bruce Wayne's house. She was I think her name was Dottie on the show. I don't know or was it Dory on the movie with Alfred?
The other maid.
Yeah, the maid. Yeah, she's from the TV show.
It did have a
her
D,
name was Dory.
I
think it was Dory.
Oh, was that where it came from?
Yeah.
Was it a callback to that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's even a better movie.
I would have rather have put her in peril. That would have been, an Alfred or both of them. That would have been cool if Riddler kidnapped them and he had to go save them and unmask himself. That would have been, I don't know. But I don't like to do woulda, coulda, shoulda for movies. But yeah.
I like that he was almost based on the Batman Arkham games, because in the games I collected all the. I literally bought an Xbox One when Batman Arkham City or Arkham Knight, came out. Because I was like, okay, now I'll buy an Xbox. So I specifically bought an Xbox for that game.
Which one's the one where Joker turns into a giant at the end?
That's the first one.
Okay, I played that one all the way through and found all the collectibles. I was so excited. I did that. I did 100% that game.
At Arkham City is the one where I went through and I did all the riddles and stuff. So, and I love how it's spray painted on the wall. So it's modeled almost exactly after the game, where it's arrows pointing here and green spray paint over the doors. It's very Arkham City like, and I thought
I don't know which one I'm playing right now, but I had downloaded one like last year, and I bought like the skin for the Batman '89 Batmobile and suit, so I'm playing as him.
Do you
But
drive a car in it?
yeah, you start off driving the car,
Okay.
and then you have to like shoot these vans out that have missiles on top. I don't know which one it is, but
It's the third one. It
is it
was
the third one? Knight? Arkham Knight?
yeah, because no, I
Maybe?
think Arkham Knight was. Oh, maybe it is. I
They're
thought
all on.
Arkham Knight.
You can go on Xbox right now and buy like a pack that has all 4 games for like $8 right now, and it has like all of them with all the skins. It's like there's an $8.99 pack and a $7.99 pack. But yeah, I almost pulled the trigger on that yesterday, but I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm ever gonna play these. And I kind of had the Batman
Yeah,
skin packs
I
already.
love those games.
Yeah, no, I like it. That one was really dark. The second one, or the one that I was playing now, I'm like, oh, this was kind of like a lot worse than the first Arkham one that I played. But yeah, they're definitely not kids games. But yeah.
And I loved the fighting with it and stuff is so brutal. So
Yeah, I mean, you're walking around your Batman, you're punching into it and stuff.
Because every time I watch the movie, I go back and start playing the game again. So
So what was the I play Fortnite as Batman. I have all the skins. I'm waiting for them to come out with the Pattinson skin for Fortnite so I can jump on that one. But what was okay? So at the end of the movie, they had when all the Riddlers were on the roof of the Coliseum, which I didn't even know was Election Day. I wish they would have made that a little bit more. And who was she running against? Did she automatically win? Because the other
no, the mayor that was killed at the beginning is who she was running against.
yeah, but so then she just automatically won.
Well, usually, and it's happened in the past where someone running for an electoral seat, like that person will die, and usually their party will just. A lot of the times, it's been the spouse, and that they actually won an election. I think in the past, like either 2016 or 18 or 20 or something like that. Like their spouse died, and the wife won the election, type of thing.
wow.
So the party will just put somebody in, but obviously
in there in place.
he died about 3 days before the election.
Yeah,
So-
it was like within the span of a week, I guess, because in the beginning of the movie, they're like, "Oh, the election's next week," or there's the elections on the. Okay, you're assuming the beginning of the movie is Halloween, so it's October 31st. What day's election day? Isn't that like November, like
Usually November. Yeah, the
7th?
first
Yeah.
Tuesday in November.
Yeah, something like that.
I kind of
Yeah.
counted the days, how many times Bruce Wayne put sunglasses on. So
Oh, yeah.
it's like 3 times maybe.
I'm like, buy a decent outfit, Bruce. Like, I didn't like the design of
does
Wayne
have
Manor
money.
either. It looked like
Fights
he didn't
crime.
have any money.
Yeah, because and that's a good point to bring up. And I see a lot of complaint from it online is that Bruce Wayne has not developed the Bruce Wayne persona yet. I've seen that all over the place and it drives me crazy. It's like, oh, that was a terrible Bruce Wayne. And it's like, that's the point. The point is he is 100% Batman. He only cares about being Batman. He only cares about being vengeance. He doesn't care what other people think of him. But then once he talks to the Riddler and the Riddler reveals it to him where he's like, you're Batman. He's like, I am looking at your true face. Your true face is the mask, just as my true face is the mask. And you almost see the realization in Pattinson, or I guess it would be Batman, where it's just like, almost like he's right. And Alfred talks to him. He's like, you still have to be Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And that's what Nolan does really good. He splits the billionaire persona perfectly with Batman.
Well, and then he understood that he had to do that. Like that was, he couldn't be Batman unless he was Bruce Wayne because he still had to have that money coming in. He still had to make up the pair. And this one, he's like, I don't care about that stuff. Like, well, you should because guess what? If nobody, if your company goes under, you can't be Batman anymore.
And even if Batman Begins, he would, they'd be sleeping. He'd be skipping meetings or not doing stuff. So,
but then you see that character development throughout that film, though, which that you didn't really get that in this one. He kind of was.
Well, I think in the second we'll see. I think in the next one will probably be like a jump where he will now realize. And this thing, I don't need to see the persona of building Bruce Wayne. Just now, like how superhero movies are getting away from origins. As far as Spider-Man and Batman, we didn't have to see his parents get shot and killed in an alleyway. We didn't.
I still don't know how how Tom Holland got bit by the spider. They never showed it.
Oh
after,
yeah, they just
after 6-7 movies, you never seen that scene. So
yeah, they've been doing it for 20 years. They feel like if you haven't learned it by now, you're not teaching your kids right. Like
but I mean, they say it like, "Oh, I got bit by that spider," and then he says it like within like 2 seconds, and then okay, you don't have to show that scene. But
yep, it's just like Batman. My parents are dead. As a movie viewer, how. Moving on. was it.
But they did kind of go over it a lot in this one, though. They mentioned it like several times that his parents were killed. He was an orphan. They kind of went over it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, they didn't show the
They
classic
didn't
scene
show
and
it, yeah.
stuff like that.
I think they ran out of people to play Batman's dad. They used Jeffrey Dean Morgan last time in the other movie.
But I loved how they showed the Riddler as pretty much a crazy internet fanatic, because especially in the past 8 to 10 years,
Yeah.
where internet fanaticism and
Would you think they'd be a little bit more savvy to catch those guys? But apparently Gotham still has like taxi cabs from like 1987 driving around picking up Catwoman. So.
And again, on that point, they can't police every single internet website. It's just like anything in Reddit. You get to know people in Reddit, and they kind of start their own chat room. Obviously, he can create his own webpage, and they can talk about all the crazy stuff they want, and the world will never know until you release a video, of all his, people type of thing. So, and again,
he even says in the part where like the bomb thing's going off, he's like, "Oh, look at all my followers, and they're all here to watch."
Yeah, but then the phone blows up, so it's kind of hard to do any tracking, and they don't know where the web page is from or anything.
But everybody
like that.
was watching it on TV. Like somehow it was streaming everywhere. Like I don't know. I guess this is you suspend reality to move the story along, I guess. But I feel like that kind of happened a lot.
Yeah, Riddler was legitimately scary because he's a crazy internet. I mean, how often have we
the first
seen
part
that?
where he's in the mayor's
Bombs
house,
to people.
the camera pans and he's just standing there. So
Yeah,
that was
and he
great.
steps out of the
great
shadows.
intros in this movie. I liked when Batman first showed up, and I liked when Riddler first showed up. But going back to like I was saying about the election with the Riddlers on there, and they were kind of all standing, pointing down. I didn't get to watch that part of the movie. Isn't there some kind of device Batman uses to throw to go take everybody out later on, like a batarang type of thing, or am I?
You mentioned I know you mentioned that in an early conversation we had, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
I never got to rewatch it.
I'm just jumps through and he fights it. He doesn't disable any of their guns. He shoots dual grappling hooks, and he does a backflip and pulls people up.
I feel like he doesn't use it in that scene. He uses it somewhere else. I'm like later on after that whole scene with the the Riddlers on the rooftop. Like I'm like, well, why didn't he just use that device? I got to rewatch it because I really don't remember. I wish he would have bataranged all those guys and had them like disabled and saved people instead of letting them like snipe down.
Well, again, that's the thing where he doesn't have that technology that immediately, because I think in BVS they had it too, where he disabled all the guns. And then they all look at their gun.
Yeah,
like,
BVS, he was like a space alien.
What does my gun shoot? No, he just jumps down and takes a lot of point blank shots without stumbling. I'll admit.
Like I said, he took a shotgun to the face, and then later on they show him take off his cowl, and the cowl's all scratched up from the face, but he has no markings on his actual skin.
But I think he took it to the chest because his chest blows bright orange.
Yeah, but it doesn't explain why his nose is chipped off in his forehead and his his cheek, but he didn't get hurt.
Some of that I think is from earlier in the movie. I don't think he had a pristine mask the whole time.
Not that bad. It was more damage afterwards.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he got hit a lot in the face, and there's like no blood at any time. Like there's a couple times where he actually did get punched in the face or hit with something, and like, when he hits his face on the coming down paragliding off when he's getting chased by the cops
on the bridge.
Yeah, and he just kind of just like gets up and like walks, like limps off, but like no broken nose, no bruises on his face.
Yeah,
they did show cuts and scratches on his back, but.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic Batman trope too, to show what he sacrificed for the people. Yeah. So, but I will admit
they should have used the back double.
Yeah, he took a lot of damage in this, and I was like, maybe you should have stumbled when you have 2 machine guns firing at you, and then the Penguin shoots him and he goes down for like 10 seconds. And that might have been a trick too. So, but
no, because later they show him and Celine, like she's like yelling at him like, "Bro, or Batman, get up!" and then he's just kind of still sitting there.
Maybe that was a trick where he just rolls away and runs to his car, and he's like, hopefully they'll notice me in my car because how cool I'll be. Vroom.
I thought he was doing it by remote personally, but then he was actually in the car. That was one of the cool things in the old movie. He would let the car like drive up, but apparently that technology does not exist in these movies.
Nope, he just has a really cool. I'm not a car guy, whatever that thing is.
Which one's it was taken apart in the beginning, like 2 days before. Like, because he had all
you seen it covered in a tarp.
But when he had time to do that, who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's just me trying to like work through the stuff logically and not like, okay, this is a movie. But
Yeah, where me personally, I look for the visuals, kind of the storytelling. I don't look for like, well, how did the cop make that connection? I'm like, I don't know. I just watched a guy walk through a hallway in pitch black and being lit up in one of the most cinematographic things I've ever seen in my life. In the chase too, the colors. I love that it had like a blue flame, but like the orange on the front. Like it was just
yeah, I did
shot.
like the way that the car looked when it was in motion. But like if it was standing, it just looked like a normal car. Because I did see the stills before the movie. Because they made a big deal about, oh, the new Batmobile is just a car. It doesn't look like the other ones, which it didn't. It looks like just a Charger. I don't know what kind of car
It
it was.
just has a rocket engine on the back. Really,
I did
I'm
like,
okay.
yeah, I like the lighting up and then the rocket in the back. But
So yeah, it's
which is why that
beautiful
tanker
movie.
blew up and
It's
killed that poor man that was driving, or woman that was driving that car or that tanker, and the four people. And but oh well.
Oh well, you have to catch the penguin.
But yeah, and then like yeah, you have to catch a penguin and let him go. I don't know. And then at the end, when he's acting like he's working for FEMA and helping people get out of the water, I kind of had an issue with that too. Like Batman should not be out there doing that. There's, they should
Well,
just show the people from the city of Gotham like helping each other and trying to improve. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's the thing where I mentioned from the beginning, where he starts off in the shadows. My job is he's in the dark. He's walking out of the shadows. The guy that he saves in the subway says,
Yeah, he's like,
please
"Don't
don't hurt." And then at the very end, such beautiful,
hurt me." Which was dumb. Like, why would that
cinematography.
guy think he was gonna hurt him? He just saved him. Like, why would he think, okay,
Well,
I just saved him. Like, let me, punch you in the face now. Like,
yeah, it's because that's what he's doing to his city. He's really instilling fear in everyone, and he thinks everyone's. But then in the end, he's standing in the light, and people are reaching out for him, and he realizes, I don't need to be vengeance. I need to be hope. And it's like, oh my God, what a brilliant
so the next one
story
he's
to
like, I
tell.
hope he's gonna do that to people.
Yeah, he'll have the Superman symbol
He'll
on
have
his
the white
chest. It's a
suit.
symbol
Yeah.
for hope. It's a symbol for hope. On my world, it means hope. So
The whole chest. The thing I did see before this movie came out was they made a deal about the chest symbol, and I think I had read before that it was supposed to be. I was surprised when it came out to be nice because I had read that it was going to be like he had the gun that killed his parents, and that's what he forged into the bat symbol. But apparently they changed that, where that was just a rumor.
well, I don't think it was a change. It was an internet rumor because that's the actual story in the comics. Like in the comics, the yellow bat symbol he really did melt down the gun that killed his parents, and he put it in a chess piece, and
See,
he
that's
made
cool.
it bright yellow, so people would purposely shoot it. Like I made it yellow, and my parents always protect my heart with this piece of metal. So it was just an internet rumor. It certainly looks like a gun. I will say that it looks exactly like a gun cut in half. But yeah, but then he used it as like a batarang a couple times. So, but yeah,
I think
that
that's
was
what it
definitely
was.
just
I think he did like throw it around and it came back to him. No, I don't know. I gotta rewatch that part. I didn't.
I don't know. I know he used it to cut her at the end, and he used
the
it
rope.
before. Oh, he
And
used
we were
it
like,
to
why
cut.
did he cut it below him? He could have cut it or above him. He could have cut it below his hand. Still stayed hanging there instead of dropping into the water. But he's Batman. He got shot 4 times and walked away.
You need tension to cut a rope or an electrical line. You can't cut something that's loose. Okay, homework.
That's true. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it would be hard. He could have. I guess he'd have trying to wrap it around his other arm. Yeah.
Make spaghetti tonight. Hold a noodle, tension above the fingers. Try cutting above, and then try cutting a sloppy noodle down below.
I could use my Batman knife to do that.
Yes, we got batarangs. You could test cutting a wet noodle just hanging loosely.
Wouldn't he have gotten electrocuted?
You see how
cutting it either way?
He kind of did get electrocuted. It did spark.
Oh.
I mean, he's also wearing gloves, but he definitely acted like he was shocked for a second because he plummeted, 100 feet,
in the water.
And then shrugged as he does with everything. He's like, "Ooh, that was close." So,
yeah, with all the grounded reality in the movie, like as many times that he got damaged and didn't take damage, that was kind of a weird thing. I'm all for them making it real, but make the whole thing realistic. Don't like give this guy superhuman like ability where he can fight people over and over again, get shot, and then but I don't know. It's just weird.
It made for beautiful, viewing, but I do agree. It's like, if you're gonna fall from a building, you're just limping away, and when you're getting shot with two machine guns in a hallway, and you're walking without even stepping backwards, it's like,
Yeah.
So I still had to kind
Because
of get rid of some.
that works for Daredevil, because in the Daredevil TV show there's a lot of like scenes where he's fighting like 40 guys in a hallway and the camera's following him the whole way, kind of like the nightclub scene. That's what the nightclub scene reminded me of, where he's walking through, they're showing him fighting all these guys, they're jumping all over him. It's like a really good
Yeah.
choreographed thing, which was a cool scene, but like I felt like it'd been done before. I don't know. And then the Penguin just shows up and then everyone stops. Like the Penguin
Yeah,
has so
'cause
much
it's his
command
club.
over everybody.
So take it easy, whatever. I was like, wow, he's really going all
Which I
out
did
with
like
this
Colin
accent.
Farrell in the role. I don't understand why they felt the need to put Colin Farrell in a mask that just looked like a dude,
I still can't tell it's Colin. Like, I still can't tell it's him. I tried looking at the eyes, the way the mouth moves, and I was like, I can't tell this is Colin Farrell. And that makes me appreciate Colin Farrell even more, because I'm not like a huge follower of him or anything, and I honestly can't even name one movie off the top of my head. Maybe Fantastic Beasts. Wasn't he the first?
Yeah, he was
You know,
the first. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and he was okay in that. But yeah, it's just watching him. He totally transformed who he is. Obviously, the makeup team did, but he acts totally different. I thought the way he talked, how he can move in that makeup, is just stunning. Like, that's the other thing where I appreciate so many things about the movie. It makes me love it more. And I'll skip over ridiculous things like, why didn't the cop question people just to hear nothing? It's like, oh, okay, I don't really care about that. Show me guys getting shot in the hallway. So I'm very simple. Just show me something that looks neat, and I'll call it good. I'm easy to please, I guess, but I also like defending the things, so I love conversations like this.
Well, I mean, you did get me to rewatch it a second time, mostly. So I
So
might go back and still try to finish it. But it's been showing on HBO because I do have DirecTV too. So I was watching it on the app, and then I on HBO Max, and then it was just happened to be on last night before I went to bed. Like I watched a little bit of it, and then immediately started falling asleep. So then I went to
I just
bed.
think it's most important to not watch where I'm trying to think of all these other side things. Like, why didn't the police do this? It's like, yeah, there's a million things that can go on in the background of any movie,
Which
randomly so
usually,
and so.
I'm like that. I try not to let like little nitpicks like that. Like, but it's the whole thing where like you can't kill a man with the needle, but if you stab him a million times with it, he might bleed. And that's kind of what I felt like with this movie. There's a bunch of little things that didn't work for me, and it kind of accumulated into it not being like my favorite. I mean, it was better than any of the other stuff they've put out lately. I mean, I was not a fan of the Zack Snyder stuff. I didn't like the first Justice League. I didn't like Man of Steel. I didn't, I haven't been really been a big.
I can find good things in those too. There is huge problems with like Doomsday, and but Superman really does fight in a city full of millions. But I was like, it gave me a cool Superman fight. So I can definitely see where there's big problems with some of the stuff, but then again, I look for the things that I enjoy. So I find things that I like in Justice League. BVS, I've probably watched honestly 10 times. So Zack Snyder Justice League, I found all sorts of problems with, and it drives me crazy that people say that movie is so much better. And I'm like, it's not. It has some good stuff, and then people yodeling as Aquaman comes out of the water. Like, give me a break. So
Yeah, that was at
because
least this one
Flash was
I don't
good
know.
in that movie, and so was Cyborg. Snyder made them really cool, but then Snyder also ruined one of my favorite villains in Darkseid, because Darkseid was a chump in that movie, and it was like, you don't introduce the biggest villain in almost all of comics, and he turns his back and walks away from the Justice League like, oh, I don't want to fight you. I'm like, dude, you don't even do that. Like, it's ridiculous.
I think the thing with
Great.
that movie compared to like some of the other superhero movies, like there's usually the citizens that are like innocent or in danger. I felt like there was nobody else but the actual characters in those movies. Like like there was no. I mean, even they made a big deal about the buildings falling down in BVS, and like they were mad at Superman for it, and that was kind of like the whole plot to that movie. But
I think in the original Justice League, they tried to address that. Remember, Flash just saved
well,
everybody.
yeah,
in this.
that's all hindsight, though. I mean, that stuff was not originally in the movie that got made afterwards, which is like a big sticking point with me, with people like, oh, that's how it was supposed to be. Like, yeah, but that's not what the script was in the beginning.
Well, yeah, because they changed directors.
Yeah.
So
It wasn't even in his initial treatment though. Like they denied his initial treatment. I mean, yeah, that's the movie he wanted to make, and ultimately they let him do it. But yeah, I don't know. I saw somebody troll online that Zack Snyder came out at CinemaCon and they had a big Justice League 2 symbol behind him. People were freaking out, thinking that was a real thing, and apparently not. So, but they did announce Batman.
And I was even a defender of the Suicide Squad Joker. I defended him. I was like, everybody needs to make their own Joker. I can't stand the why aren't you more like Dark Knight? Why aren't you more like Batman 89? No, everyone needs their own style Joker, and this one really is like a gangster.
The only good one is Hamill.
He's definitely the best. But then when I seen Joker in the Zack Snyder Justice League, I immediately hated him. I hated it so bad. The additional scenes at the end, and they just decided to drop a random F-bomb, and I was like, what drives me crazy in
I'm
superhero
still
movies
on what the heck happened at the end of that movie. Where were they? What happened? I don't know.
Another nightmare, bizarro. And that's another thing that's bothering me with superhero movies is they just feel the need to say the S word all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like all the time. Like that's, you can easily get away without saying those. It's not a necessary. I can understand dropping.
No Way Home had Doctor Strange is dropping expletives in there, which
Electro did several times.
No, he's like let's Scooby Doo that. Like he does that too. He says it like 3 times.
Let's go Scooby Doo this. Yeah. And that's the type of thing where it's like this is unnecessary swearing because these are for all ages. Parents don't need swearing in. Yeah, do I like Deadpool? Yeah, Deadpool's great, but it's targeted towards me too.
He didn't swear in the comics. There was no cussing in the Deadpool. I have most of the 90s run. It was nothing like the movie, which is why I don't like that movie either, or the second one.
What? You don't like Deadpool? It's one of the best.
Oh my god, that's my favorite. I'm staring at my first edition comics right here on the. I love Deadpool. I have like so many comics. That's my favorite comic book stuff. But yeah, I did not care for the movie. I loved it. I like Ryan Reynolds, and I was excited when he got cast. But yeah, it was the B movie. I mean, it's fine. The first one's fine. The second one, I have never had the desire to rewatch again. But I mean, I own the first one.
They're some of the best superhero movies.
But see, and that was my thing with that movie. I didn't go watch it in the theater because like I'm not going to take my kid with me to go see it. Like even like now I can't just throw it on like on the TV because it's so bad. Like it's so like not family friendly.
Did you show them?
I've never watched the PG one. I've never watched it.
Oh, it's so funny because we have my wife has, it was 8 at the time or 7. But he asked continuously to go see Deadpool, and we were like, absolutely not. And then they released the Christmas special that was edited down, and we went and bought it and showed it. So now when he gets older, he's going to be like, yeah, I really like Deadpool. And then when he watches the real Deadpool, he's going to be like, I don't remember having a shadow penis in there. It's like, oh my gosh. Like it's perfectly clean to watch that PG or PG-13. Like
they did the whole even Princess Bride thing. Yeah.
They edit the blood. They do all sorts of stuff. Like they get rid of a lot of blood and violence, almost no swearing. It's brilliant. Like how amazing is that to where you can make a rated R movie and just to be silly, they're like, well, let's make a PG DVD only and just make more money. And that's exactly what happened. They made a ton of money.
Yeah, and I wish they would show that version on TV. Like I would sit down and watch it if it was on. At least I could at least have it on. But
Fox?
Yeah, I'm just disappointed that like one of my favorite superheroes. Favorite comic books I've ever read. I mean, the book's hilarious, but it's hilarious without all the nudity and the sex and the swearing. Like, I'm really like I'm no prude. Like I grew up on 90s gangster rap, so like I'm fine with that. But like for comic movies, I'm kind of like,
Well, that's why I like that. Like I said, I don't like the for all audiences PG-13. You don't need. You could have one F-bomb. Where would you put it? No, how about we just don't need that or the S word? But when you have a targeted rated R movie where it's like, okay, this is for adults. We're going to do more gore. We're going to be more gritty, and we're going to show swearing. And I'm like, okay, great.
Well, like, have you seen Free Guy?
I loved it.
Another Ryan Reynolds. Have you seen Free Guy?
Yeah, I watched that.
Unnecessary F-bomb in that movie. It's PG-13. I'm like, why? I mean, the movie's perfect except for that one part. Like where he's talking.
I do agree. It's, especially Marvel movies, where it has a huge fan base amongst all ages, and anytime there's a Marvel movie, people will just go see it with their kids. Yeah. And I know there was that problem with Deadpool because I remember seeing a couple of under 10-year-olds
that took kids with them. Yeah. I mean, when I went to go see Hangover 3, people had kids in there. So
just think it's pointless swearing is just a waste of time, and it's if you remove it, nobody would know. Like,
Yeah, nobody would know.
Scooby-Doo is a stupid line anyway. So, but then to put swearing in it, and I was like, you're swearing just for the point of swearing.
Yeah.
And I have my 9-year-old here that now is learning swear words when you could have just said stuff, and nobody would be none the wiser. Nobody would be mad. So, whatever.
Which is why Star Wars is still the greatest family franchise in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Except for Poe. Poe kind of crosses the line when he's describing doors.
What was he doing?
Remember, he's like, "Oh, look, that's a big ass door." It's just funny.
Oh, yeah, I guess. See, like that and the D word. Okay, I'm like, okay, one of those is fine. But when you say the S word 3 times in one Spider-Man movie, I'm like, dude, come on, Jamie Foxx, you're doing great, but that's not necessary.
Oh, I want to rewatch that before I finish watching Batman. I have watched that movie like a bajillion times since I bought it on home video.
Yeah, I almost wish it was on streaming. Which was I don't really have a
None
DVD
of them
player.
are though. None of them are on streaming.
I wish it was on. Wow, that's Sony for you.
Yeah.
I don't even want to get into Sony.
I own Venom and I own all the Spider-Man movies. I don't like the Venom movies, but I have them.
I'm the same way. I begrudgingly go to see it in theater. I'm like, I guess I have to see this.
Well, and that's
Just
the thing. Like,
movie.
my daughter got into Venom with Fortnite because he was a collectible character there, and they keep showing him all over the place. And like, my wife was like, well, she can probably watch it. It's not really that bad. I'm like, yeah, but he cusses a lot in it. I'm like, she's like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
yeah.
So
again, it's pointless cussing. You just don't put pointless swearing in there because these movies are interesting as they are.
Well, maybe once I see Morbius, we can do a Morbius episode.
Well, I can guarantee I will not see Morbius again because, but even before, I didn't.
But what if I actually like
that
that one, and then I'm like, hey, this is better than the Batman.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it then. You can come with your notes, and I'll just come with my negativity.
No, I have low
That'll be
expectations. I'm not a big fan of the Sony or the Foxes making Marvel movies. I don't think they greenlit part 2 for Morbius yet.
No, they're making that other one, El Muerto.
So who would be the villain in the Batman 2? Would they bring in the Joker from the end?
That's a really good discussion point. I do like that. Thank you for bringing that up. But me personally, especially being the Matt Reeves universe, I think any sci-fi villain is an automatic no. I do not want to see Mr. Freeze. I do not want to see Clayface. I don't even think Poison Ivy would be a good idea unless you completely remove all of their science fiction. I don't want to see her riding a giant plant. Like, no. So I think some of the best options are
what about Bane?
Court of Owls.
You could have Bane
I think,
make a return.
See, I mean, that's the other thing. I don't want to see anyone from the Nolan verse because Nolan did so good. I mean, he did a fantastic Two-Face. He did a fantastic Rouse.
Did you watch Gotham?
And he did it. No, I never watched that.
I never watched it either. I was gonna say, is there any villains on there they used?
I started watching it, and once they introduced Selena Kyle, what about him?
Isn't he Batman villain, Deathstroke, or is he more?
He is actually. Yeah. That was. I think they were saving that for the Ben Affleck Batman movie.
Yeah, that's right.
But that doesn't look like it's ever going to get made. But my personal choice would be Court of Owls. I think that's a great story. It explores more of the underworld because I'm a fan of Green Lantern, and Green Lantern has stories across the universe. So I always find characters like Batman or Green Arrow very difficult to read because how much can you really do in one city? And Court of the Owls blew the doors open on Gotham. And I think it's one of the best Batman stories ever written. And it can have a lot of mystery, Matt Reeves. It can have a lot of detective work. It can expand the universe, the story of Gotham, which is the point of the renewal program. It expanded Gotham. The Court of Owls would be great. I don't want to see the Joker. The character looked all right in the movie, but we had such a perfect Joker.
I saw the deleted scene, and I was like, they kind of overthought it.
Yeah, that's why I don't really want to see even random characters like Professor Pig. He's a murderer. He's a mass murderer. Or
Condiment Man. How about that guy?
Maybe not that. Or what is Zaz? Victor Zaz.
I'm just trying to think of people from the Lego Batman movie who are in there. Which this one kind of did remind me of the scene with the Riddler where he's like, "Oh, we did this together." That's totally a ripoff of Lego Batman, where he's like, "No, we're partners. We do this together. Me and you, we're a team."
I love that movie, but it's been a while since I watched that in theaters too. So
we just watched it again, like last week or so.
It's been a while since I watched that one. I'll say.
I was watching that I told you that episode with the Riddler where he was suing Batman. We watched that episode, and then my daughter immediately wanted to watch the Lego Batman because they showed the scene in the episode we're watching where Batman gets kind of drugged and he starts dancing around.
I think she just suggested that so she didn't have to watch another episode.
No, yeah, she doesn't want to watch this show with me at all.
Exactly.
But I have no Batman movies to show her. I think we did watch the '89 Batman together. I didn't show her Returns yet. We did watch Batman Begins, which that one's not really too bad. There's some scary parts, but yeah.
Did that keep their attention?
It did, yeah. She's pretty good with movies like that. Lord of the Rings, she watched all of them with us. We watched the extended editions of all 3 movies, and she has no desire to watch them again, but she actually sat there and watched them though. But
that's impressive. I gotta say that's impressive. A lot of kids won't do that.
Yeah, and yeah, she'll sit through all the Star Wars movies. No,
Yeah, because you can have action, you can have fighting and stuff like that. Yeah. So, our kid, he loves the Spider-Man, the new No Way Home. But as soon as he's done fighting the Goblin, he's just like, all right, I'm done. Like, you have a story of the. He's like, no, I'm good. Oh, he'll from Toby and Andy to the fight of Goblin, and he's like, I'm good.
We bought the new one, and like she watched it completely. We all watched it again, and then she threw it on again just when she was coloring and doing something. And then she got to the part where Electro shows up, and then she immediately went to go, like, I'm going to watch Amazing Spider-Man 2. So she threw that on, watched that whole movie, which I kind of like that movie now. I didn't like it when it came out, but I appreciate it now.
I was always a big proponent, mostly of Andrew. I've always said
the music with Jamie Foxx when he comes out as Electro, and he's like, they're taunting you. And that's like, I like that now. And I was hoping they would use that music in the new movie. But yeah, she watched that and then she rewatched some of the Toby ones. I'm like yeah, she watched them, like she likes that stuff, It's not boring. And this movie, the Batman was like, it was pretty boring. A lot of the DC stuff is really dark and slow, which I get. They're trying to get the mature audience. But
yeah, I would say Batman definitely really is. I have a 14-year-old and he watched it and he said he didn't like it. But again, I kind of get it because you have to keep attention the whole time.
I didn't like the Joker either, though. I didn't like that movie either. Like, I don't know. I get what they're trying to go for. The gritty.
I watched it for the acting. Like, as soon as they said Joaquin Phoenix, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this movie for Joaquin Phoenix. And I did. I watched it for him. I watched it for his performance, and I can say I love his performance. Even though the universe is crazy, I love that his riot led to the Wayne's death. I enjoy that idea. So I understand it's a totally different Joker in every way, but you just watch that movie because Joaquin Phoenix is one of the best actors in the world.
I thought it was a ripoff of Taxi Driver, so I didn't really like it. Have you ever seen Taxi Driver, Rob De Niro? That was a good movie. It's one of those movies. I think you'd like it if you like the Batman movie. I think you'd like that movie because it's kind of the same thing. It's got his descent into madness kind of thing and trying to be a vigilante. It's got some cool like imagery in there. It's really gritty. It's old. It's Rob De Niro, Harvey Keitel.
I don't think I would have got that from a movie about taxis. So that's probably why I know.
Yeah, no, he ends up he's a taxi driver and he ends up getting a little weird like the Joker, and then he's which is kind of weird that De Niro was in Joker because he basically was playing De Niro in that movie. But yeah, no, you should watch it. It's an older movie. I don't even know what year it came out, but yeah, that and you said you did watch the Jake Gyllenhaal Zodiac movie, which this one
I loved it originally came out. I'm a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan. In all of his movies from the days of Donnie Darko.
And it's got Robert Downey.
I've enjoyed all of his stuff.
I've seen Donnie Darko. I've watched that a couple times. Like I did like that when it came out. Yeah, he's got some movies. Was he in the one where he was a soldier and he got blown up, and then he was in like they brought him back to life or something? Was that him? I'm trying to think.
Universal Soldier. He did have.
No. He was like on the subway and they're transporting him or something like that.
No, he does have it's in Jarhead. Jarhead's an amazing movie.
Oh yeah, he was in Jarhead. Yeah, and so was Jamie Foxx.
I rewatched the movie where him and Tobey Maguire are acting together. That movie was really good too. He's just a strong, really emotional, strong, good-looking actor.
What movie was that with both of them in it?
I think it's just Brothers or something like that.
Was it Brothers? Yeah, I thought it was Brothers too. Yeah, I think I did watch that one. Cider House Rules. That's another good Tobey Maguire movie with Michael Caine.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, he plays an orphan, and Michael Caine's like the caretaker. That was a good movie. But yeah, I'll rewatch that before I watch Batman for the third time.
No,
but I mean, I appreciate that you love it so much, and it's like I said, whenever somebody talks about like, oh, this movie's terrible, or something, like somebody out there likes it a lot. So I try not to do that with movies. I understand that it's my preference and that, but Yeah, not for me. I
But
don't know.
again, I think a good, healthy discussion of me convincing you you're wrong is also good to do too.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you did have to dance around and explain things a lot. So I mean, a movie shouldn't make you work that hard. But
Well, you don't have to like go to. I want to see a cop interviewing a person that just says this person drove. We don't need that. Like, just get to the cinematography. Get to the. I mean, it's a 3-hour movie. Do you want a 4-hour movie of the cops
well,
interviewing
they spent
people?
like
I'll watch it.
they
I'll watch
spent
it.
a lot of times he stared at that kid for like 2 minutes, like, which was weird. But oh, that was the one tech he had in the movie was the eye contacts. That was the only cool Batman tech that he had.
The
Was
what?
the
Oh
cameras
yeah.
that somehow had microphones on them. Yeah,
Oh no, they had an earpiece too. Remember?
yeah.
He
the
gave her an earpiece.
That's right. Which was probably working off Bluetooth from the eye thing. Which I guess didn't run on batteries because Selena kept it in her bathroom because that's where you want to keep, cameras, on your counter in the bathroom.
And as a person who wears contacts or
Mhm.
used to wear contacts, like you got to keep that thing underwater, otherwise it'll be like put glass in your eye.
Yeah, I did appreciate when I watched the second time that when Batman got knocked out once again after he let himself get blown up by the bomb, that the cops were looking in his eyes, so like, oh, what's on his eyes? And like, well, I didn't notice that the first time that they remarked about
Yeah,
noticing something
I
on
like
his
that they
eyes.
made they made the
They
eye
took
makeup
time to
real.
do that, but I don't know.
But we want to see interviews of random people.
Well, I mean,
So,
they spent
okay.
a whole car chase that led nowhere, so
It didn't lead. No, what are you talking
it
about?
led nowhere.
It led to Rada Alada. Like it led
They could
to
have
something.
figured out at the police station.
But they did. They needed the
But
clues, so they got to chase
they
Penguin
needed Penguin to
because they
tell
thought
them.
Penguin knew Riddler. They're like, so, and again, they were wrong, and that's your heroes building who they are. They're like, listen, we weren't right, but we eventually
But
found
couldn't
him.
he just went back to the club and talk to him again like he did last time?
Well,
Oh,
he
he
was
had already
going.
asked him if he knew the Riddler. He already asked him, but he didn't. He wanted to ask him about the who was the stool pigeon, who was the rat. But
Yeah, because he think it's him now, because it's a penguin with wings. Everything with wings. Kite Man is the rat. I don't know.
I'm the rat. He's like, wait, I think he's after me. I gotta go home. I didn't investigate the carpet tool. That was obviously a carpet tool.
I didn't know it was a carpet tool.
Really?
I don't
Oh.
have a cousin that works in installation.
But at least somebody would have figured out, oh, this is a carpeting tool. Well, what does that mean? I that whole thing was like, he's like, oh, it's wrong. He's like, well, he's never wrong. Like, you admitted it was wrong earlier. Like, to Alfred, he's told you that this was the wrong translation. But I don't know where you get URL Rotata to like, oh, this is a website. That seemed kind of like a leap, but I don't know.
That's the fun of riddles, which I'm terrible at.
Uh,
I don't know. Any fun? So you'll rewatch it again. Hopefully,
Yeah, I'll
just watch
rewatch
it
it
with
again.
enjoying the cinematography. Don't look for all the little. Just look at the story beats that they give us. So
Which I do that. I mean, I'll just like, oh, I'll watch it just for it's a popcorn movie. But this wasn't a popcorn movie. It was meant to be a serious, dramatic, intellectual. Because apparently the Marvel movies are just dumb, gaudy things, and the DC things are
they
far superior.
follow a different.
There's no
They
character
follow a
development
definite
or emotion in
formula.
Marvel movies, apparently.
Hey, I enjoyed the Eternals, so
I did
and I
too.
have to fight people on that all the time
It was
too.
fine. I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, I'll probably not watch it again, but I mean,
Yeah, I think it's unfair to compare the biggest movie that took 11 years to get to, and then compare everything to that.
Yeah.
Like, well, don't compare it to one of the biggest movies of all time and say, well, it's not as good as Endgame. Well, because almost nothing will be. Like, stop comparing it to that. Just watch them, because the Marvel Universe Phase 4 has restarted. Just enjoy everything as a fresh new story, because that's what they're trying to tell.
Oh, I saw
You
people
can't
saying
live
that people were saying that like Justice League and this movie were better than Avengers, and like, which Avengers? Because there's been like 12 of them. They all built up to one story, which is why you get the payoff of like when
that's how you
somebody
know
dies.
better.
Yeah, when you get the payoff, somebody dies, you're like, Iron Man dies, and you're like, oh, I've been following this guy for like so many movies, and he's gone now, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's why I love Marvel, is because they're not rehashing the network for a new rehashing the movies for a new generation. They're telling the story. Because I mean, I got like a 9-year-old also who's like, well, what happened in Thor 2? And I was like, well, we'll have to watch Thor type of stuff, because they're just continuing a story that I started watching when I was 25 years old. They're just committed instead of
Which I said it in our chat. Like, it's funny that the least liked, in quotes, least liked movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe was Thor 2. I mean, Thor 1 and Thor 2 was even worse. Like nobody liked Thor 2.
Yeah.
And Ant-Man. Like those were the two least grossing films, and those were the two that kind of like made up, the important parts of Infinity War and Endgame. You had to have Ant-Man built up to do what he does in there, and you had to have the first Infinity Stone in that movie. Like they were there for a reason. It wasn't how much of that was actually planned and how much was just luck, but or good writing towards the end to wrap it all back in. But yeah, I do wish DC would just start over again. I mean, they could build upon this universe. I wouldn't be mad, and just try to get one story built up over time and not just try to rush it. I know they're trying to do
I think they're trying not to follow the Marvel formula though.
Yeah.
But that gives them a totally disjointed universe, which people have come to expect now. They're like, okay, we want after credits that show us what you're doing next. And they're like,
well, now you have
get
Flash
nothing.
coming out that is going to connect Keaton's Batman, and then there's going to be a Batgirl in that movie, but then there's another Batgirl movie coming out, and then you have the TV show people, and then you have what's the one that came out with John Cena?
The Joker was totally the Joker was totally disjointed, and they're just telling movies just to try to tell movies.
They're doing one shots, which is fine.
Where
you can do that with comic book movies, but
where Marvel has pretty much changed the fandom to expect a big cohesive story, and honestly, DC and Sony just don't have the skill. We'll just be honest; they don't have the skill. So.
No.
And it's like, okay, well, I'll just enjoy them for the one-offs that they are.
Like it's a movie. It's a single movie. You watch it, you like it. Maybe they'll make a part 2. Maybe they'll make a part 2 to the Joker movie. Who knows? People liked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this was good. I'm glad we were able to go over the movie and learn some stuff and have a civil conversation about a movie.
So I guess whatever big event pops next, or if we decide to discuss some old trilogy like The Matrix or something, whatever that we think is big enough.
I'm down for like old movies too. I don't care. Anything, comic
think
books, toys. We don't have to debate. We can just like gush about stuff if we want to.
All right, that sounds good.
So we'll see you next time. Some bat channel. So.
I agree with it. All right, we'll talk to you later. See you, man. Bye, everybody.
I like that.